The golden rule is treat people the way you want to be treated, you know. You've just got to treat people fair and with kindness and help people when you can. And that's what we try to live by.
Because we were put on this earth to see each other through, not see through each other.
You done good for that.
I've had a very blessed life, and when I look back on these 69 years, I've had a broad spectrum of things that influenced me, contributed to what I am. I've had a good journey. This is the highlight of the journey so far, be inducted into this prestigious group of men and women.
I have been able to have a front row seat to all of the facets of Jim Williams. In my family, we know him best. And the Jim Williams that the public knows is just a tiny bit of what my family and I see every day. A man of character, a person with integrity, a person that I show my son, this is how you grow up. This is how you should strive to be as a person in this industry. And it's been a wonderful blessing in my life to have him as a father.
There's ways you can label friends all your life. Jim has turned out being the type of guy that I called him a pallbearer friend. That's the highest merit I can give somebody.
Over my years of walking through the halls of the Saddle and Sirloin Awards, we've seen so many different cattlemen recognized, and he fits the same bill. I mean, he is a leader, he is a giant among giants. His commitment to the industry, his commitment to the Brahman breed, his commitment to people, students, so that everyone gets the best out of whatever their cattle experience is to me is what he's all about.
We're rounding the curve and we're coming into the town of New Gulf, where I grew up, and this is where Jim and I went to elementary school together.
I grew up in a private company town that was named New Gulf. I first met Jim in 5th grade when the schools in Hungerford closed down and he transferred into New Gulf. We were boyfriend and girlfriend in the 5th grade, and then again in the 8th grade at junior high, and then got serious between our junior and senior year in high school. During our high school years, the little town was consumed with sports because we had a good football team. That was in 1972, and Jim was the captain of the football team. He was a leader, and what was fun was how the whole town rallied around the sports events. Jim had a lot of offers from colleges to go play at the next level, Division I, and he made the decision to go to Colorado. That was a long way from Bowling and Hungerford. He signed for it, and when it got right down to it, he said, "I don't want to leave." So once you signed in the Division I, he had to go down to Division II, and that's how he ended up at Texas A&I, which is now Texas A&M Kingsville. He loved it down there. That started his passion for South Texas. But he was a genuine leader, even as a freshman. He started on the teams, traveled on the squads, but all that ended when he blew his knee out. And you know, this was back before arthroscopic surgery and modern medicine, and so his career was over. And at that point, that's when he transferred to A&M. And that made his mama very happy because she always wanted him to be an Aggie. His parents had red Brahman cattle when they were growing up. I believe Jim took one heifer to the Houston Livestock Show. We have a picture of him showing at Houston. So he actually had a lot of responsibility with the red Brahman cattle, so they transferred over to the gray herd when his parents sold their rodeo stock and bought the V8 herd. I think his parents recognized the talent that he had. I know a lot of us did I mean, he could see cattle differently than most people. And when he went to A&M, they wanted him to be on the judging team. But we didn't get to do that because they had workouts on the weekends, and we came home every weekend to work cows. So we were married in 1976, went to A&M until he graduated, then we moved back. So almost 50 years ago, and we're still here. Same place, same land. I can remember back in 1976 when we had just got back here, we had our first national champion cow, Miss V8 104/2. I don't know how we did it. Maybe it was just blind luck, but we were so happy. The family was so proud. But at that point, I think we all knew that Jim had a superior eye for picking out cattle and breeding cattle and preparing cattle.
When I got out of school at A&M, we were running at that time, my daddy and Mike Servey had about 8,000 commercial cows. Daddy said, look, we've got all these cattle, you take care of the registered cattle. So I was very fortunate when I was like 21, I was breeding these gray Brahman cattle.
In the Brahman breed, we have experienced success that is unmatched under his leadership. We have over 65 national or international grand champions. That's more than any other Brahman ranch in history. And in the Shorthorn breed, we raised many national champions as well, and hopefully more to come in both breeds. And of those 65 national and international champions, all of those decisions can be traced back to his vision for our operation. Showing cattle is a big part of who he is, but it's not just about the banners and the ribbons for him. It's the friendships made and the memories made doing something that he loves.
I met Jim the first time was, and if I'm not mistaken, it was the early 80s, and me and him was judging a show together in Central Texas, and I thoroughly enjoyed his friendship, and our friendship became more and more. Our philosophies are a lot of the same. He believes in cows. He believes the merit of a cow, and he preaches it, and he believes in it.
And he has the knowledge of all the cow families. He can go back and show you on paper, or he will remember it. So that also makes it a special tribute to his memory and his ability to recall cattle 10, 20, 30 years ago and how they've affected the breed.
This is a U.S. Sugar Corporation notes. This is started in about 1985. I would go down there and buy these cattle, and I made these notes of all these cattle that they had. Every time I write, I would give my visual appraisal of those cows and what I thought of them.
Some of the show administrators and fairs started noticing Jim's talent. If I remember right, his first show was in Laredo, Texas, out in the middle of a cow field. I was very proud of him. I thought that was a big deal to me.
Our guy in the ring is Jim Williams from Bowling, Texas.
I'm looking for cattle that have balance, cattle that walk and travel well, have a good finish to them to get into that choice grade, and cattle that just have some eye appeal to them. I'm a judge that I like for them to look good. I want eye appeal.
It's hard to keep a tally of exactly how many shows he's judged because at no point have we done that. But I do know he's been judging cattle shows for over 48 years. He's judged 33 different breeds, national shows, and 44 state fairs. And that's just here in the United States. And believe it or not, he still has a few shows on his bucket list. So I joke and say that he might be judging shows one day on a scooter if they'll let him, because I don't see him turning down the opportunity to check some of those last ones off his bucket list.
He's just so ethical and fair and treats people with respect. The other thing about him, he's just so caring. He wants every exhibitor to be better. He's not afraid to tell them what they're doing wrong, but is always a teacher in the ring. And I think that's another thing that separates him. It's not just about his knowledge, it's about what his knowledge is and then what he can share with others. One of the first shows I ever judged, it was in Brenham, and when I finished judging, he came up to me and said, you mostly got it right, but you don't have to talk every inch of them. I do remember that. That's one of those memories I'll never forget.
He's judged Brahman cattle all over the world. He's judged the World Brahman Congress 3 different times. As far as I know, no one has judged it that much. Still today, he gets invitations all the time asking him to fly all over the world to travel and judge these Brahman shows. It's hard for me to think all of the flight miles that he logged, traveling to different countries, to Thailand, to all over Latin America, Colombia, Brazil, all in service of promoting the Brahman breed worldwide. And that's something that our family has seen the dividends of, his influence from judging and traveling all over the world, educating people about Brahman cattle. We see the effect of that today as far as the V8 brand and its prominence at a global level.
When people think of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, they probably know it's one of the largest livestock shows in the world. But what a lot of people may not recognize is the first week of show is the International Week, where we'll have visitors from 80 different countries. And a lot of them are there because they're very interested in the Brahman genetics. And we have a lot of educational programs for them, but we can always count on Jim Williams being a center point to there. He's not afraid to tell the story. He's not afraid to promote the cattle, but it's not about his cattle. It's about the Brahman breed itself. And that has grown over the years. Our international footprint, particularly with Brahman cattle, when we look at the visitors from across the world, again, from Mexico and South America, especially Central America, he's been a pivotal point of growing our show by making sure the visitors have a positive experience and understand the genetics and the industry associated with Brahman cattle.
I had the pleasure of traveling with Jim while he was serving as president of ABBA. I can remember we went to Bucaramanga, Colombia, to the World Brahman Congress there, and we were at a technical session, and towards the end there was a panel discussion, and the panel discussion included Jim Williams, and I remember they got on stage and they began their presentation, and when I looked around, the place was totally packed. You couldn't see one empty seat, and it was standing room only. People from Asia, people from South America, people from Central America, Australia, Germany, cattle breeders and educators from all over the world there wanting to be present to listen to that one presentation. And that was the type of presence that Jim had whenever we traveled worldwide, because people knew the type of cattle that he bred. People knew the impact that his cattle made in their respective countries. The V8 brand is all over the world, and he has made a huge impact internationally.
When it comes to Brahman cattle, Dad's position in the worldwide Brahman industry is something that's hard to describe, hard to quantify. When you think of the V8 branded cattle, we're one of the 2 biggest ranches in the Brahman breed, the other being the Hudgens Ranch, which are our cousins. My grandmother was born into that ranch, so we are all sort of connected. But Dad has single-handedly bred all of the V8 cattle, and we've sold cattle to 6 different continents. So it's really hard for me to even fathom the influence on the global cattle industry that Dad's decisions have made.
Since we didn't have a boy, Jim felt that it was very important to teach the girls the same stuff that he would have taught a son. It was a normal thing each calf crop to take the girls out there and let them, with a piece of paper, mark on their paper which ones they felt were the best that need to be retained into the herd. And then he would go over it just like a test and tell them, this one's this or this one's that. But he knew the need to teach the next generation how to evaluate and how to judge cattle.
At no point did he ever make my sister or I feel like he was disappointed that he didn't have a son to pass on the ranching legacy to. It was instilled in us from a young age that a woman could do anything, and he raised my sister and I both to believe that in this industry we could do all of the things that a son could do. He gave us all of the opportunities that we could ever have to excel in this industry. Even today, many, many years later, I have the luxury of working alongside my dad here at the ranch every day. And now, just like he did when I was a kid, he involves me in every decision. We get to work together to make the breeding decisions, the culling decisions, all of the management decisions for the ranch, he involves me in. And, I like to think that he looks back on the time when he was younger and his dad trusted him with so much of V8 that he wants to pass that along to me as well. And I'm very blessed to have him here with me, mentoring me to continue our family ranch for future generations. During my time as a junior exhibitor and Dad's time as a show dad, he was also at the peak of his leadership in this industry. So he was serving as president of 2 major breed associations, Texas Junior Livestock Association. He was on the National Cattlemen's Beef Association board, chairman of the Texas Beef Council. I don't see how he had the time to do all of these other leadership activities he was doing, but he did. And it's because he wants to serve and help the people he cares about. So his family, be a great show dad, mentor his children to be future leaders in this industry. But at the same time, he was serving in leadership roles within major beef breeds, within the beef industry, making a difference in the entire cattle industry.
But that's what I like about Jim. He's passionate about everything he does. So I think that passion, it's not only cattle industry, it's not only the Brahman breed, it's not only the V8 ranch, it's Texas A&M, it's the cattle industry, it's students, it's 4-H, FFA. All those things kind of come into play, that everything he does it with passion, and that's all you can ever ask about anybody.
I sit on a board with the Brahmas. I see how people follow him, and that's a natural leader. You can't buy morals, and he's got it. Because that's why people flock around him, that they know he's got integrity.
I have had the honor of working with Jim as just a member of ABBA, as a committee member, board member, and president. And I can say that Jim would always speak for what was right for the association and not what was right for Jim Williams.
I think that's the way I would describe him. A rancher with a service heart and the ability to connect with so many different types of people.
Walking to the North American, this is where they show the cattle, right here in Freedom Hall.
When I was younger, Dad walked our family through the club every year at Louisville. I knew that these people were giants in this industry that we loved. I think about many years from now, members of our family will be able to go and see his portrait hanging amongst all of these legends in an industry that has served our family so well for so many years. And I can say without a doubt, he's absolutely deserving of this award, and we're very proud of him.